Hello again, welcome back to the channel, glad you could join me. So today I am going to be reviewing How to Seal Your Own Fate. A while back I read and reviewed How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin, and I found out after I'd read that one and enjoyed it that there was a sequel, How to Seal Your Own Fate. I'm going to give you some spoiler alert right now because we have some spoilers from the previous book. Now, the previous book, Annie Adams, the protagonist, she is requested to go to Castle Knoll, this community where her great aunt Frances lives. Great aunt Frances then dies, and it turns out that she was murdered. The terms of Aunt Frances's will stated that whoever solved her murder received the inheritance. Annie then solves the murder and receives the inheritance. Now she's living in the Gravesdown Manor in Castle Knoll as the sole heir to her great aunt Frances's estate. She's been trying to find her feet there. This is a small community where everybody knows everybody and everybody knows everybody's business. So she is trying to settle in. There is a lot of people that had some animosity towards her great aunt Frances for her great aunt Frances prying into their business. There's a couple of things that I personally, in the previous book, a fortune teller told the great aunt that she was going to be murdered. And she spent the next 60 years, 70 years, I forget how many years it was exactly, but she spent the rest of her life trying to figure out who was going to be the one who killed her. And in a lot of ways, it ends up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy because she digs up so much dirt on everybody in town that everybody hates her. And so it was only a matter of time before somebody decided to do her in. So there is that. And there's a lot in the book about the fortune teller and the fortune teller's mysterious powers and stuff. And it's like, that ends up feeling kind of off in this book. Anyway, let me get back to it. So she's been living there in Castle Knoll for a while, and one day she goes to walk into town because she's going to meet her friend Jenny from London, who's going to come down and spend some time there in Castle Knoll with her. And as she leaves, she bumps into none other than Peony Lane, the fortune teller who gave her great aunt Frances her fortune. And the fortune teller, of course, says that she has a fortune to give her, but she's not going to want it or like it, but she will want it at some point. And that she should look into the deaths of the Gravesdowns. Now, from the first book, you find out that the grandfather, the older brother, and the older brother's wife all were killed in a car accident. And that left their son... the second son then inherited the estate, and the son of the elder brother became the adopted son kind of the second brother. The second brother then goes on, Ford Gravesdown, then goes on to marry Annie's great aunt Frances. And this is a lot of stuff that's going on here. So she goes about trying to find some more information about the Gravesdowns and what led to their deaths, goes and meets her friend. They go back to the house, and at the house, the front door is locked, so they go in, and they find that the person who's been handling the food, some of the food for great aunt Frances, has now been doing it for Annie, and she left some food there for her. She and her friend then go take a picnic in the solarium. The solarium is kind of a greenhouse that was attached to these old Victorian era homes. Had a lot of hothouse plants and stuff in there that don't normally grow and thrive in England. And they go in there and they find the dead body of the fortune teller. Not only do they find the dead body of the fortune teller, somebody had thrown an antique knife into the river near Annie's house, and when she was meeting up with a neighbor, it had gotten jammed in the water wheel, and they pulled it out, and there was an urban legend about this particular knife. So Annie then takes it to the police station. The police say, we're not going to do anything about it. If you want it investigated, you're going to have to do it yourself, kind of thing. And she takes it home and puts it in the kitchen. And when they go into the greenhouse, not only do they find the dead body of the fortune teller, but they find the knife that they had brought in with them in the fortune teller's back. Now, one of the things that let's go on. So now Annie is embroiled in the investigation of who killed the fortune teller and why. You have some of the same suspects, a lot of the older people from town who were part of the original investigations of Great Aunt Frances. You have Detective Crane. He has a new boss at the station who seems a bit of a jerk. Seems to be like muscling in where he doesn't really need to. Anything to kind of push Detective Crane to the side. It seems like that's what he's doing. We still do get some excerpts from Aunt Frances's diaries. I had been wondering about how she was going to continue forward with the series, and it seems that all of the current happenings are tied back to investigations that Frances did when she was younger. And because of that, we still get excerpts from her diaries, from her investigations, her point of view, the information that she's uncovered. You get information from the massive amounts of files that she had kept over the years. So you still have that aspect. It was enjoyable up to a point. I do like Annie as a protagonist. There have been times when I have read a book and really would have loved to get into the book, get into the series, but just hated the protagonist, or protagonists, as the case may be, and ended up walking away from the series just because I couldn't handle it anymore. I just hated the characters so much. Anyway, Annie is not that. Annie is a very likable character. She seems a bit bumbling, well-meaning, but it ends up that she is a smart character. She does have intelligence, and she is organized in her way. She has notes that she keeps and stuff, and so she does end up solving this one too. I mean, it is a whodunit, so somebody has to solve who did it. And this is self-contained, so it's not like it's going over several books and it's cat and mouse. No. The characters, I like them. I kind of just wish that Detective Crane and Annie would figure things out a little bit more, a little bit faster. But hey, what can you do? Anyway, I don't think I will be going on with the series anymore. There were a couple things about this one that I really didn't like. One thing is that, and this isn't necessarily the author's fault, but the blurb inside the cover makes this seem like it's a locked room mystery. They go into the house, the front door is locked, they go in, and they find that the fortune teller has been killed. And it's like, oh, who could have gotten in there? The doors were locked. Well, actually, no, the doors weren't all locked. The door to the solarium was not locked. It when I read the part where they discovered the body, it didn't register right away. But I thought back on it because my mind did trigger something. It's like, wait, there was something funny there. And I ended up going back. And so instead of trying to go back through the house, they just go out the nearest door possible. And they go out through the door, the solarium door. Now, the solarium is bolted from the inside, but when they left, they didn't unbolt the door. Now, this could have just been an oversight by the author, but I doubt it. And it does end up coming back later where she says, wait a minute, that door wasn't bolted. But the blurb in the inside cover was like, oh, it's a locked room mystery. How did somebody get in? It's like, well, obviously they got in through the door that was unlocked. That's how they got in. So there was that. And like I said, that's not necessarily a fault of the author. But there are two other things. One, they don't really make this out to be a supernatural series, but they keep going back to this fortune teller and her uncanny abilities to tell people's fortunes. And it's like, well, is this a straightforward situation here, or is the fortune teller actually prescient? Can the fortune teller actually see the future? It does seem that she can see the future. Now, as I said before, the thing with Aunt Frances, it made her obsessed. Somebody's going to kill me. I've got to figure out who's going to kill me. And so because of that, she spent her whole life trying to dig up people's secrets, and it made it so that it was inevitable that she was going to get killed. It could have been that all she had to do was move away from Castle Knoll, because it turns out that the events of her childhood triggered the murderer, and that's why she was murdered. But it was because she was always digging into people's secrets. Anyway, so there is that aspect where it's like, this feels like you want it to be supernatural, but at the same time you don't. It's kind of this wishy-washy thing where it's like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's like, I don't really like that feeling. Either make this supernatural or no, it's not. And you cut out everything supernatural. The other thing that I didn't like was this amateurish attempt right at the start to implicate Annie in the fortune teller's death. It was really, really dumb. So apparently they find the fortune teller dead. And so the police come, investigate, and then they go away. The next day, Inspector Crane comes back. Detective Crane, Inspector Crane. I think it's Inspector. He comes back. No, actually, I think it is Detective. Anyway, he comes back, and he's like, you got to tell me, were you having a feud with the fortune teller? He's like, I've never met the fortune teller. He's like, that's not what the police records say. So apparently, before the fortune teller's death, the police had been receiving calls from Annie that the fortune teller was harassing her. The problem is that it would have been super easy for them to find out if this was true or not. All they had to do was contact the police officer. So we already know that the person who takes the phone calls at the police station is not a fan of Annie's because of the actions of her great Aunt Frances. And supposedly this person was the one that logged those phone calls, that logged that Annie was being harassed. Well, they were always assigned to a particular police officer to go and check it out or whatever. And when Annie was like, hey, how do you check and make sure that it's actually me that's calling? She found out right away that they don't check that it's her. It's just kind of a type it into the computer, hit enter. And so they didn't check that it was her that was calling, one. And two, the police officer that was supposed to be investigating these supposedly was transferred to another station. Well, we have things called phones. All you have to do is pick one up and say, hey, do you remember any of these? And she would have said, no. So it was really, really stupid. Really stupid. And up until this point, it had seemed like this series was a lot smarter than that. Anyway, that's kind of, I don't know. Annie is particularly likable. She's a nice person. She's a likable protagonist. So maybe I will go back, but right now it's like, nah, those kind of things kind of have turned me off to the series. That's it for today. Let me know if you've read How to Seal Your Own Fate. As always, like, share, subscribe, comment down below, and all that other stuff. And until next time, enjoy what you're reading.